Thank you, everybody. I appreciate the opportunity to come and talk with you for a few minutes. I'm on my way actually to Europe for some meetings, so I just happened to be able to stop in here for about 15, 20 minutes before I have a plane to catch. But I wanted to start with a video because I think people may or may not know about Procter & Gamble. How many people know who Procter & Gamble is? It's actually pretty good. You probably know our brands more than you know the company, but well, this past year, for the first time in the history of the company, it's over 150 years old, it went to the CES show in Las Vegas. And we all know the CES show as the Consumer Electronics Show, but what we really realized with the changes that's going on in the world, the changes in technology, we've rebranded the show ourselves as the Consumer Experience Show, because it is about experience. And what I wanted to do, if we can just play a quick clip of something that our first ever experience with CES as a sponsor of a booth.
We're innovating faster. We're able to deliver transformative innovations that improve everyday life. We are proud to bring this to you in our Consumer Experience Show, P&G's Life Lab.
So, not bad for a first try at CES. From a company that's not known for technology. It's been known for over 150 years for innovation, but now we are starting with all of our products and all of our services and combining them with digital technology and other technologies to create brand new consumer experiences. So, as was said, I'm Alan Boehme. I'm the global CTO and head of IT innovation for Procter & Gamble company. We have over close to 100,000 employees around the world. We operate in almost every major market in the world, and we are very innovative. But in order to get there, we've had to forget some of the past, and we've had to start looking at how things are done in the future. So the problem with large corporations, and I've seen this with a number of different companies I've been associated with over the years, whether it's Procter & Gamble, whether it's Coca-Cola, whether it was ING, whether it was DHL. I also spent time here at Juniper Networks, spent time in the Valley. I've been working with a lot of startups over the years. But large corporations, the problem is we all rally around this phrase, best practices. And the reality is best practices is just the first step in commoditizing whatever you're trying to do, because as soon as you implement a best practice, your competitor's going to have it, their competitor's going to have it, and it just becomes something that's standard. So we have to get out of this mindset of looking at best practices for things that do not matter. So if something matters for you, if something's important, it gives you a competitive advantage, the last thing you want to do is commoditize that. And this applies to the startups I work with when I discuss with them. It applies with Procter & Gamble and other companies. So by definition, if you think best practices are commoditization and standardization of an activity, how do you get into a different mindset? And that's very, very difficult for the large corporations. So it's what I call sort of a recovery process. And I started looking at this a number of years ago and start thinking about addiction and addiction habits. It doesn't matter what you're addicted to, but at the end of the day, you have to stop being addicted to what you're doing in order to make progress. The first thing that you have to do is you have to admit that you have a problem. If you keep saying, I'm going to keep working with the old suppliers, if I'm going to keep working with the old partners and they're going to get me there, you're never going to change. You also have to look at yourselves as an IT organization and realize it's decisions that we have made and may have been made in the past. You may not have been there, but you need to stand up and own them. That we basically have put the IT and the technology organizations into a position of not being able to change. And those are two very hard things to do. And you have to then realize what the gravity of that problem is. And that's why so many startups, so many companies can come at you from a horizontal place as opposed to meeting you head on, because they have the ability to understand the problems that you have and to attack that. The next big thing that you have to do is you have to start realizing, talking to the executives of your company and getting them to understand what's going on and getting them to realize it's time to change. This is easier said than done, because many of the people in executive ranks, doesn't matter what company you're with, have been with that company for a very long time. I've been fortunate to work with some companies where the founders are still there. And I'll tell you, the hardest thing to do is when a founder's been successful in building a company to $1 billion, $2 billion, $3 billion in revenue or more, is to come in and say what you did 10, 15 years ago to start your company and to get that hockey stick growth isn't going to get you there for the future. And that's very, very difficult. In public companies, we have other challenges. We have to be able to deal with quarterly earnings. We have to be able to deal with the Wall Street. We have to be able to deal with analysts. So it's very complex to realize that you have to make change. You then have to look at, in the probably around early 2000s to mid 2010, ERPs were everything. And again, the problem was this commoditized everything. But so many people in the IT organizations have banked their career on ERP systems that you have to get out of that. Now, the thing is, recovery is possible. You can get away from this. You need to be able to start selling and storytelling, and I'll talk about that a little bit more in a few minutes, in order to be able to show where the future is. You have to bring back IT professionals. Back in early 2000 to 2010, except here in the Silicon Valley, and I have worked with some Silicon Valley companies, most IT organizations and most technology organizations got rid of their engineers. If you weren't an IT structured company, the engineers went out. The idea was that you could use project managers, and IT was a commodity. That's the facts of how things were. The reality is we can see that that has led to the growth of actually many technology companies that are now competing head-on with the old legacy corporations. So as you bring the IT professionals back in, you now have to redefine what your innovation and digital agenda is, and then you have to go out and sell, internally, externally, because you have to change minds. And this is not normal and not comfortable for many people in engineering to think that you have to be a salesperson because you have great ideas, you know what you want to do, and it makes perfect sense to you, but you have to convince people that are not as knowledgeable about you as to what technology can enable, what it will do to the future. So when you start thinking about how you're going to move a large corporation forward and scale innovation, I always say, let's take some lessons from the Valley. And this was something that I found online a number of years ago, but it's very, very true. And if you follow these 5 lessons, whether you're a startup or you're a corporation, there are a lot of good things that will happen to you. One of the biggest problems is you have to be trustworthy, which means you have to be transparent. You have to be honest of what's going on. Understand that people from diverse backgrounds, diverse cultures, diverse technical disciplines can all contribute and need to be there and trust their learnings, trust their instincts. You need to be able to be fair, not try to take advantage of every situation. A win-win situation is good for everybody. Everybody will grow. The entire market will lift, and based on your product, if you're a startup or if you're an entrepreneur, based on the corporation, you will get your fair share of the market. But you really have to look at it as looking for the long-term gains, not just for the short term. Now, one of the things that I really believe in is paying it forward. I do a lot of work with STEM wherever I am. I have a big belief that we need to do this. We need to be able to make sure that we're always introducing people. Very rarely if I've met somebody and they say, could you introduce me to somebody that you know in a specific area, whether it's for raising funds, whether it's for an introduction to a company, if it's somebody that has been fair to me and it's trustworthy, I will pick up the phone, I'll send an email, I'll send a text, and I'll do an introduction. You never know what's going to happen. So you always want to do that. And hand in hand with that is open the doors and listen. So, you know, when this story about Mark Zuckerberg here is sort of interesting because I actually ran into a couple people here in the Valley. And when Mark was looking for money, somebody that I know gave him some money. Mark didn't have a business plan. Mark did not know where he was going to go with Facebook at the time, but somebody I know took a chance and put some money in very, very, very early on. Somebody else that I know wouldn't take the call with Mark. Who do you think's happier now? So, you know, you have to always listen and open doors. I was actually in Mountain View here, I guess it's been 2.5 years ago. I was at Starbucks visiting a friend who had just started another company and stopped at Starbucks before I was going to catch the train back up to the city. And two young guys that came out of 500 Accelerator, 500 Startups I think it was at the time. I didn't know them. They came up to me and they said, look, do you have a few minutes to review something that we're building? And they started telling me we're with 500 Startups. I said, I know what it is. They said, we want to get some information on you. And on you, we're going to collect some research. I said, I'm sorry, I don't have time. I said, I will be happy to help you with what your website is. Be happy to take a look at what your app is and what you're thinking about doing, but I have literally 10 minutes until the train leaves. So they said, great. We sat down, we went through what they were building. I quickly critiqued, I like this, I don't like this isn't working right, think about this, think about these different things. I said, hey, I got to get running. Here's my name, look me up on LinkedIn, bye. A week later, the two of them reached out to me on LinkedIn. And I accepted the invitation, I remembered them, and I got this message from them. It was, we need to see you. It wasn't we want to see you. We need to see you. So I sent them a note back, and I said, well, I happen to live in Half Moon Bay, and I said, look, you can find me over at the Ritz-Carlton on the deck overlooking the sunset. If you want to come over for a drink, please join me. I said, I'm not coming to Mountain View. It's too far to go. They got in their car, and they drove over that day. And they sat down, had a drink, we were talking, and they said, you've created a problem for us. I said, what's that? They said, the things that you told us, we went back and talked to our mentors at 500 Startups. About 80% of the stuff we implemented. They said, but the problem you created is the throughput on the website has now gone up 300%, and we don't know how to scale. We need to understand how to scale. So, long story short, over time I kept working with them, call it paying it forward. Just like these guys, I thought they were really good. There were a couple of young guys from India that had moved out from Texas to do a startup. And liked them, saw what they were doing, introduced them to some friends, helped them raise $2.5 million, and away they go, and their company is taking off. So you always open a door and listen, always pay it forward, because you don't know what's going to happen, you don't know who you're going to meet, and it only takes one phone call or missing one opportunity to do that. This applies in corporations, it applies in the startup community. And corporations are now having to learn to experiment and iterate together. We must work together with young entrepreneurs, young companies, and others. It's part of product market fit. If we can help with the product market fit, we get a better product. The entrepreneurs get a better chance to succeed. If they succeed, there's a stronger company for us to deal with in the future. So we're in a new era that we have to deal with. We have to stop undervaluing IT. We have to start thinking more like VCs. Corporations need to make a lot of small bets. There's no longer these $1 million, $2, $3 million deals. We need to be betting in $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 deals, do a lot of them, because we know 1 out of 10 is going to be worth $1 billion to us. And because of our scale and because of the size of a large corporation, if we can simply move, we're a $66 billion, turning to be $70 billion company this year, a 1% increase in our supply chain or decrease in our supply chain costs is something far greater than we would ever get in making an investment in you. So we don't want to invest in you. Nothing wrong with that. We want to grow with you. You grow our sales by 0.5% or 0.1%, we are going to be ecstatic. You make our customers and consumers happy. That is more than we will ever make. There's a lot of corporations that are out there that are demanding for investing. We bought parts of your company. Honestly, That's not, unless they're in the business of making money, it doesn't make sense. So we need to start looking at making a lot of small bets. We also have to realize that failing is good. And that's really hard for a large corporation. If you fail and you learn and you pivot, that's important. Most corporations are not set up to do that. But we need to do that, and that's something that we're learning from the Valley as well. And we have to really start looking at history lessons, and that's very important. This is just a quote from Thomas Edison. There's a lot of them out there from different people, but it's all about trial, error, move quickly, learn, and get to market. And large corporations can scale better than anybody else in the world. So what am I looking at? Where's the future? We hear a lot in the Valley about the cloud. I hate to say it, the edge is where it's at. I've been saying this for about 3 or 4 years. Edge computing is the future, the cloud is the past. The cloud systems and the SaaS providers and all of this, in my opinion, is nothing more than the ERPs of 10 years ago, okay? We are moving everything out to the edge, and you can start seeing the technologies are being put in place, led by inference engines and other things that are going to really make a difference. The advent of 5G coming very soon is going to make this and speed this up even more. So we are very much looking at the edge. We also believe everything is predictive and adaptive. Within that video that we saw a little bit earlier, there was a situation there where you saw a woman using a device. It's called the Opti on her face. So it used to be that people would put makeup on, women would put makeup on their entire face. This device called the Opti will actually you hold it up to your skin, it analyzes the skin real time and only puts a micro drop of skin care product onto your face in the area that needs it, and you no longer put it on your entire face because it can analyze it real time. We also have another product that looks at this and analyzes your face for age, for wrinkles, for other marks. It will automatically go through and suggest what products are best for you. So the idea of personalized products that are based on you and as a consumer, it's real because of the merger of technology and material and biological sciences. So we see that happening. We're going to see more and more of that coming. Everything, as I said, is going to consumer experiences. If we can rebrand CES from an electronic show into an experience show and get the type of results that you saw, the billions and billions of media impressions, you have to believe that it's coming. We also believe in the rise of the robots, whether it's for delivery, whether it's in factories, it's coming at us as well. And IoT is everywhere. I hate the term IoT, but IoT is everywhere. You combine that with artificial intelligence, you combine that with edge computing, and that's where we are. So the one question that I'm wrestling with, is just sort of part of the theme of your event here, for Tech for Good, is does AI actually assist people, or do people assist AI in the future? And I'm really struggling with this because there are ethical and moral implications to this. But the reality is there's so much information that is being processed every day, the human brain can no longer take it all in order to make decisions. So do we have to start trusting, and at what point do you start trusting the machines? And how is that going to play in the future? And I think a lot of companies are struggling with this because you see the AI being assistive to people, where in reality the algorithms in many times outperform the people. So these are just a few of the things that I'm looking at, the things that corporations have to take into consideration. It's people like you that are involved in the community, that are working on these things. We very much believe in Tech for Good. We do a lot with water purification technologies around the world. We're doing a lot of different things in various communities. As I said, I'm personally involved in a very large STEM program at P&G. But it's people like you that we need to partner with. We'd love to find ways to partner with you. So please reach out. The LinkedIn was out there. You're more than welcome to connect with me there, and have a great conference, and then good luck. Thank you.